Hey, don't forget your brush!
Hello and welcome to Art Shed. I'm Kathy and in this video we're going to be learning how to draw and paint our Swallows Arriving watercolour project. We're going to be doing this in two parts. In the first part we'll learn how to draw it, and in the second part we'll learn how to paint it. So all you're going to need for the first part is some ordinary paper, a pencil and a rubber. So let's have a look at what's going on in this picture. We've got swallows happily flying through the sky, and they've arrived here in England all the way from sub-Saharan Africa. That means that it's springtime. The flowers are blooming, and all around us we can see this luscious bright green colour appearing in the grass and the trees and the bushes. The sun is getting warmer, and I think everyone's feeling just a little bit happier. So to learn to do this picture, we're going to learn how to draw our swallows. Then we'll do some flowers, and then we'll learn to put the whole picture together. We're going to learn how to draw our swallows now. But don't forget, at this point, we're just practicing, so you don't need your watercolour paper just yet. In my picture, I've got about 7 different swallows flying around, and it might look like they're all different shapes and sizes, but actually there's just one shape you have to learn to draw the swallows in this picture. Let's have a look. When you see birds flying around in the sky, they're often twisting and turning. Sometimes you might catch a glimpse of the colour of their feathers on the top of their body, and if it's a swallow, you'll notice actually it's a really lovely blue colour. And sometimes you might catch a glimpse of the colour of the feathers on the underside of their body, and in the swallow's case it's a lot paler. So these two shapes are actually exactly the same, but this one just has some different patterns on it. Before we start drawing, I want you to notice one important shape that's really going to help us draw our swallows. And that is this shape here, which I think reminds me of a bullet. A very handy shape for a bird, I think, because we all know that birds travel very, very far and very, very fast. So let's have a go. I'm going to start with that bullet shape. I'm going to be drawing with a piece of charcoal. You just need your pencil and your paper. So I'm just going to draw a line that's kind of going uphill, and that's going to curve round and come back down again. It's wider at the front and gets narrower at the back. You're going to need to practice that a few times because eventually it's best if you can do it in one go. So take your time. The tail is just a V shape. That's nice and easy. And the wings are going to come off this part of the swallow's body, a little bit like aeroplane wings. You're going to have 2 lines like that. That one's a little bit shorter than that one. And do the same on the other side. This part of the wing is going to be a bit longer, and it's quite good just to draw it with your finger so you can imagine how it's going to look. Put a little point, and then you can draw your lines. You know where you're going. Do the same with this one. Imagine where it's going to go. Put a little point. Now this is the top of the swallow's body, but we might just see a little bit of his throat, that lovely orangey reddy colour that you'll paint on later on. So we're going to draw a little curve mark there, and that is going to be that lovely red colour. That's his beak. And you can just put in a little eye, you might see one of his eyes. So we're going to draw this again now, and it's going to be exactly the same shape. I'm going to draw it at a slightly different angle, and then I'm going to show you the patterns on the wings for the underside of the swallow's body. So we're going to draw our bullet again. This time I'm going to go downhill, round, and back again. Your bird will look different every single time you draw it, and that's good. That's what we want. We don't want them all to look exactly the same. So we've got that V-shaped tail and the wings coming off. And again, don't forget to imagine with your fingers roughly how the wing's going to go. Put a little guiding point there, and then you know where you're going. Imagine that one. To about there. So you can see exactly the same shape so far. But this time, because we're seeing the underneath of our swallow, we're going to see most of his throat. So I'm going to put just a little line there. And we might see a little glimpse of the top of his head, which is going to be blue. So I'm going to put a little line there. This bit's going to be the red colour, and I'm going to put his beak there. And a little eye at the top. So you can see that it's slightly different from that swallow there. He's got some patterns on his wings which go like this. So we just follow this line here, very similar. So do the same on the other side. And then halfway along this bit of wing, just put a little dot, do the same with the other one. And then you're going to do a curved line from here to join the one you've just drawn. There we go. Same with this one. He also has, because his body, this bit's going to be pale when we paint it, but this end of his tail is going to be blue again. So we can just do a little line there, just to remind ourselves later on when we draw it, that's going to be blue. So when you come to draw it on your paper, you're just going to do several of these shapes, and some of them you can decide to be the bird where you see the top of his feathers, and other ones you can put these patterns on and it can be the underneath. So have a really good practice at these, get used to drawing them, and then when you're confident later on we'll put them on the watercolour paper that you're going to paint on. So let's have a look at the flowers now. I've got a whole collection of different flowers in my picture, and quite a few of them you probably don't even see in springtime. You might see them later in the year, and some of them probably don't even exist. But that doesn't matter. The fun of drawing and painting is that you can make stuff up. I'm going to draw a few flower shapes on my paper here. You can either choose to skip this bit because you already know what you want to do, or you can just watch me draw a different collection of flowers, and that will help you know what you want to put in your picture. So here's a few different flower shapes you might want to use in your picture, but I'm sure you also have lots of your own. So now that we're ready to put the whole drawing together, it'll be really good at this point to decide what you're going to be painting on. If you bought your kit from Artshed, you'll have a big sheet of watercolour paper this size. That's A2, so that's what I've done this on. You might not have that size at home, but A3, which is smaller, that will work too if you have that. Now, one thing you might notice about my picture is that I've got a white border around the edge. Now, what I do is before I do my drawing and my painting, I put masking tape, just normal masking tape, around the edge of my watercolour paper. And what that does is that it protects the paper from having paint or pencil on it. And right at the end, when your picture is completely dry, you can peel it off and you get this lovely white border. So if you want to do that, you need to do that now before you do your final drawing and certainly before you do your painting. Because we've already learned how to draw our swallows and our flowers, I'm not going to be drawing it again on my picture here. I just want to show you how to start your picture. I'm going to be using a black Sharpie, but you should be using a pencil. I'm only using this so that you can see what I'm doing. So the only line that I really need to show you is this one here, and that is where you're going to start your picture. But you want to draw it quite faintly. Don't press really hard with your pencil, because you want to make sure that later on, if you want to draw any birds that are on top of that line, you don't have a thick line going through their wings. So to find that line, let's put that under there for a minute. I just want you to move up from the bottom of your piece of paper, find halfway, and then go up a little bit higher, because I think we need to have enough space for our flowers and our distant hills. So when you find that point, you're just going to draw some rolling hills. Now, obviously, this is your picture. You might want mountains or more hills than I've drawn, and that's absolutely fine. So you should do that with pencil. And then once you're happy with your horizon line, you're going to put in all your flowers down here, and then all your swallows up here in the sky. So take your time, don't rush it. And just one tip is don't press really, really hard with your pencil, because if you do want to rub something out, it'll be much easier to rub out if you haven't got a really hard, thick line on your paper. Once you're happy with your drawing, then you can make your lines a little bit darker if you want to. So good luck, and I'll see you in the second part when we'll learn how to put all the colour on.
Hey, don't forget your brush!